Good afternoon, everyone. We're just giving it a couple of seconds to let everyone into the webinar, and then we will begin. So we'll begin in 1 minute. We're just letting everyone sign in. Okay, let's start, and people can continue to sign in. I'm Anthony Forgione. I'm the Director of Business Development for the HIA-LI, and I want to welcome you to another edition of our CEO series, which we call our CEO Forums. The CEO series or the CEO Forums are one of my favorite programs because we really get to meet the CEO, listen to their journey, get their insights about success. So it's not only wonderful to hear the CEO, but it's really valuable to hear about all their lessons, all their obstacles they had to overcome, and their insight on success. So welcome again. Before we begin, I do want to thank or recognize and acknowledge our board. Our board of directors have been very supportive of us daily on a daily basis, and really all their support through this whole COVID era we're going through has been wonderful and has enabled us to really continue to do what we need to do and expand with our programs. So I want to thank our sponsors for today. Sponsors are so important to us, so we're able to bring these programs to you in the fashion we do. So I do want to thank Custom Computer Specialists, who you'll be hearing from their CEO in a little bit. And I also want to thank Ruskin Moscow Falsacek. And I'm going to allow Andrew Garbino to say a few words from Ruskin.
Thanks, Anthony. And hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be back at one of these things, albeit virtually. Just a little bit about Ruskin Moscow Faltashek. I'm very proud of the fact that we've actually added 5 lawyers in the last year, which is I think a testament to our management and the viability of our clients. We're a full service law firm that was founded a little over 50 years ago in response to this explosion of great Long Island companies, with the idea that they shouldn't have to go into Manhattan to get a Midtown or a Wall Street level law firm. And it's been a pretty successful outfit for the last 50 plus years. Like Anthony said, these are my favorite events that the HIA does. And today was just a no-brainer for me and for the firm to try to be involved with, because I've worked with the folks at Custom Computer Specialists. Greg, I've met you once and you were very hospitable, but I've worked with Marianne, Dennis, Kyriakos, Tom, and they're great people. And I do crisis work. So anytime I'm involved with a client and doing work for them, they're experiencing some sort of a crisis. And every time we've brought the folks at Custom Computer Specialists in, they've worked well with us, but they've also had a great bedside manner, which for a tech company isn't always the case. Let me just put it that way. And they speak and they communicate with clients in terms that are very easy to digest, and they do just great work. So congratulations, Greg. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to see all of you. Thanks for this.
Thank you, Andrew. That was great. Before we do begin, I just want to remind everyone, if you do have any questions, please enter it in the Q&A field, and we'll do our best to field all of them. So now let's get to the program. Let me introduce the president and CEO of the HIA-LI, Terry Elise Maselli, to lead us away.
Thanks so much, Anthony, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you're all staying safe and healthy. And, these CEO forums started in 2011 based on all of your feedback. And you told us that, again, you wanted to really get into the head of the CEO, really understand what they were thinking, their philosophy, and where they saw the future of their industries going. And they've been wildly successful. So this is obviously our 2021 series. We're very proud to highlight Greg Galdi. He is the founder and president of Custom Computer Specialists. He's also a brand new HIA-LI board member, and he's been great. And Custom Computer Specialists was a finalist for the Business Achievement Awards. And part of that process is CEO judges go in and we interview the actual companies. And, you know, when we walked out over and over again, the CEO said they were so impressed by several things. Number one is Custom Computer Specialists, I'm sure you'll hear about it, began in a storefront in Riverhead, right? And now has grown to over 400 employees in the Long Island Innovation Park at Hauppauge. And they service technology in schools and healthcare and towns and many other types of industries. So we're, again, delighted to highlight Greg this afternoon. Our moderator is Rich Human. He's the president and CEO of H2M Architects and Engineers. He's also our board chair and a very, very, very valued member of our board, obviously. So I'm going to turn it right over to Rich. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Terry. And welcome everybody to our event this afternoon. So we're going to cram in a lot of stuff in this hour. Promise to get everybody done by 1 o'clock. And I'm thrilled to be moderating and having a conversation with Greg today. So Greg, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here and great to be healthy and be here. Incredible year that we've all been through around the world.
Great. So, you know, you and I have been getting to know each other over the last few months, and I love your story. I think that, you know, somebody who started their career as a chemist at Brookhaven National Lab that, you know, just, you know, saw the opportunity to get committed into the world of IT and showed really the spirit of an entrepreneur to look at this as, you know, an industry that, you know, you can not only excel in and become an expert in, but, you know, run a really successful company. So, you know, talk to the group a bit about, you know, the early days, how you got started, and, you know, what decisions went into, you know, bringing you into the IT world.
Sheesh, I'd love to tell you that there was a great deal of thought, but what there was a great deal of passion at the time for what was going on. And we actually, I actually started in a little room off my living room, and you know, again, I started as a chemist, did some work at Brookhaven, did some hydrogen storage work, which is some of the work is still being used today, and. But I really decided I wanted to go out on my own, and I love programming. I found a great art form, and so we really started as a programming shop. And our first big step was a little office in Riverhead, and we ended up converting the Hampton Jitney from their reservation system used to be a big round table with a bunch of ledgers, and when you called in, they'd spin the table around and get to the right bus. And we wrote a system for them and really transformed, and it's still in use today on a different platform. But it was exciting times, and you know, it's kind of living through the Industrial Revolution. You know, there's things happening all around you. You just didn't know what was going to happen. And in '85, to put a exclamation point on it, in '85, I sat down with Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Esther Dyson, who was a journalist, and Steve Hayden, who was their advertising person, and myself out in Cupertino. And we talked about what we thought the technology was going to lead and where Microsoft was going and where Apple was going. And we were kids, you know, I've looked back at some of the pictures and I can't believe how young we were. So it was just wild.
That's great stuff. If you think about over the last 40 years, just the whole transformation of information technology in all sorts of different ways. I mean, it's the backbone of society today. So for somebody like you who was starting up a new company, had a passion for IT and had to now, not only build a client base, but had to stay current with what I'm sure was an ever-changing industry. How did you go about really staying connected to how the IT industry was evolving, and at the same time making sure that you were doing the other things you needed to do in starting up and running a successful business?
Yeah, I think there were two big decisions. One was that, top quality customer service was something that was always going to drive the business. And the other was to hire the best talent around that you could find. It was an incredibly, and still is, an incredibly rapidly changing industry. I tell my guys today, I said, you know how fast things change today. I said, well, you better enjoy it because it'll never be this slow again, and that's really the truth. We went through we were a retail chain in the middle of the 80s. Then we put some of the first people on site in large companies like J. Walter Thompson, Philip Morris, JP Morgan. We were doing all of their service work. United Nations sent me over. We put some of the first systems in China in 1985. And they actually sent me to China. And this was before Tiananmen Square. And, what I know, I was a kid, but you couldn't go anywhere without being escorted. And it was quite an experience. But we just kept pivoting. One of the things we do is we pivot well. And our people are really of one culture and one mind, and that's taking care of the client. And that's kept us going.
So as a really successful company who understands the importance of meeting the client's expectations, providing top quality client service, at a time where the evolution of information and how that makes your client successful in their business, I'm sure put tremendous stress on you and your organization because, as things, needed to be addressed, they're looking to you. They're looking to you to be the person who is going to help move them forward. So, how do you deal with, I'm sure, the great demands of your clients, and, how do you go about being extremely responsive to them?
Yeah, you got me thinking about the early days. In the early days in schools, they used to call it keyboarding, and they just wanted kids to have a keyboard in front of them, and the bar is a bit higher today and in all aspects. And so, continually raising that bar because the customer expectations are continually moving upwards. And so to try and front run them and be ahead of those, we focus very carefully on thought leadership programs by bringing the experience of a large group of our clients and even past our client base through webinars like this and through face-to-face meetings and plans, book plans for their future. Bring that knowledge to them so that they can see what other schools, other towns, other companies have done with technology and how they can apply that themselves. So it's a very collaborative event that we do with clients. And when we first get to a client, the first thing we do is we land and then go wide. And we talk about all of their different departments. And then we talk about inventory of things and how the different devices sit on the network and the requirements of the network to be truly bulletproof and secure. And as you know, security is a #1 topic these days. And it's very tough to maintain security. There's so many possibility for leaks. There's so many endpoints that enter into the network at any given point in time. So it's a challenge, but I've got some really smart people working for me. And, I have a saying, you got to make a lot of mistakes and make them fast, and hopefully you make enough things that aren't mistakes to drive you forward. And that's really a key part.
So you talk about your employees and having great people, and it shows when you hear about your company and what has made it successful, and you've grown it to, around 400, and you're in multiple offices. I know. How do you go about developing your people? How do you go about setting expectations and, balancing performance with engagement? What's your environment and culture like to help develop your people?
Yeah, it's certainly a challenge these days because all good people are in great demand. Okay, and we've put thousands of people out to work in the industry over the 40 years. A lot of people come to us from other industries looking to develop technical skills. So we have a pretty rigorous program, and there's many entry points, but we invest regularly in people. We just got done with a group of, I want to say probably about 48 of our managers that we sent to a Dale Carnegie class, a series of Dale Carnegie classes. And that really challenged their thinking. They were with business people from around the world. And Dale Carnegie does a great job at exposing people and just getting them to think differently. Plus, my door is always open, so I have routine meetings, and I do a lot of management by walking around. A lot of this is not new. A lot of this is, great stuff that's come out of Harvard and Wharton and, London Business School, all of which I've had the pleasure of attending through Young Presidents Organization. So I walk around and I ask people questions, and it's funny because sometimes they think I'm a tech, and they'll talk to me about that, and they'll ask me about this, and they'll engage with me because I don't come in a three-piece suit. I often come in and just casually work alongside of them, and when I leave, someone will tell them, that was Greg Galdi, and so then usually there's some aftermath after that. But that's pretty funny. But I don't break the story to them while they're there because I want to hear what they have to say.
Well, don't lose that. That's great stuff. Do you see the opportunities in your organization for your staff as they're growing technically? Then they're going to be looking for opportunities maybe to influence the organization a little bit more and grow in their career. How do you go about maybe two things? One is the technical growth, right? Because once they achieve certain technical competencies, then they're increasing their value to you and to your customers. But at the same time, there are going to be those that, as they're achieving technical growth, they also want to, maybe get involved in the business a little bit bigger. How does that look at your organization?
Yeah. Well, the technical growth, all we can do is bring them to water. It's a complex business. As I said, in the 80s and 90s, it was a lot easier. These days, with Cisco and HP architecture and the virtualization with Amazon web services and Google, a lot of this stuff is very, very complex. You have to find a niche for yourself, and you really have to have a passion about it. Otherwise, the industry doesn't tolerate onlookers, very much. So they have to have that passion for the technology, and but then after that, if I look at my senior staff, one of my senior staff started for me in the early 90s as an on-site resource at Philip Morris, and he now runs a $20 million division, one of our most profitable divisions in our organization that provides a student information system called Infinite Campus for 9 states up in the Northeast. And so all of my senior people started as junior people, and they've all come up through the organization. I rarely hire from the outside, at a top level, because you're right, these guys want to come up. And the real question is, how do you provide those opportunities and communicate to them so that they have a path to travel? And we're spending a lot of time right now defining those paths. As we get larger, the paths get more numerous. And so our HR department is working hard to define those paths so that people can ask their managers, how do I get on this path? How do I get on that path? So I have a future growth path over the next 3 years.
That's great. That's, I think, all organizations need to be looking at their talent and every way possible to keep their talent. So it's great that you guys are committed to that the way that you are. You mentioned security before, and I think a really important topic for all businesses, and especially when the pandemic started and everybody went remote. The challenges with security and protecting against any kind of cyber warfare, I'm sure would have caused a company like yours, to really have to shift in a big way and support your clients maybe, differently than you were before, because I think most businesses probably felt safe, but maybe weren't really as safe as they needed to be. And you were on the front line of that as, cyber hacking and IT security was really such a big deal as the pandemic started. How did you go about taking a look at the things you were doing for your clients and maybe changing your approach in making recommendations to them? Because I'm sure now they had to look at maybe investing in things that they weren't investing in before. What did that look like?
Yeah. Well, certainly security existed in 2019 too. And, it's very hard. As you can see, some of the world's biggest companies have been hacked. So if you become a target, it's you really want to know what you're going to do when you're hacked, rather than pretend you can never be hacked. And so that's kind of a mindset we bring into our customers is, okay, divided up into three sections. One is, what's our prevention? Okay, so, and you're absolutely right, passwords, and the fact that all of a sudden now people who were on a network in a building that was pretty secure, all of a sudden they're at home, and a lot of times they're using the same networks that their kids are using to access Minecraft or whatever, and their kids are on their computer playing, and most people's passwords are, nothing more than their kids' birthdays or their addresses when they grew up, or things that they can remember, their dogs' names, and so that's a big problem. Once you distribute all of these workers, all these panes of glass, we call them, out into the ether, and so that's a big piece that we needed to bolt down. We came up with a number of assessments that we do for clients, where we go through a carefully scripted approach to see where their pain points are, where their possible entry points are, and how they're managing to ensure that passwords are robust, okay, so that they're long passwords. They change frequently because people don't like to change their passwords, and that they don't use one password for everything. And then you got to worry about where people click and what emails they're getting, and and what they're doing. So there's all of that preamble. Then there's when you get hacked, how do you minimize it and contain it, and then you have to plan for what's your restore going to be. Okay, so how robust are my backups? Most people's backups are never tested. They're backed up, but because it's very difficult to test, and a lot of our clients don't have a big budget for security. So it's a big challenge. It remains a big challenge today. We work closely with our clients through our help desks to ensure that, as we talk to them, we ensure that they've changed their passwords, that they've got the proper upgrades and virus upgrades. But it's an ongoing problem. As you can see, some of the biggest companies have been attacked, and so it impacts things severely.
Yeah, I'm sure those clients of yours that hadn't been hacked are going to question how much to invest, and I'm sure if you spoke to one of your clients that had, they would say, "Geez, we can't invest enough."
Yeah.
It's the disruption to your business is I'm sure significant, and IT, I think in general is you can invest layer on top of layer on top of layer, and at some point your clients need to rely on you to let them know where's the proper balance in how much you invest versus your infrastructure. You guys play a critical part there. A question about on-site. You made reference to people working in a building having their servers and equipment in a building versus things being cloud-based, and the industry continues to move more cloud-based. For businesses that whether they have large IT infrastructure or not, what's the trend now in terms of on-premise versus in the cloud?
Well, just one last thought on the security piece is that, as soon as a new penetration mechanism is discovered, we work to ensure that all of our clients are safe from that penetration mechanism. So you just don't want to be first. The cloud is really someone else's server, okay, and someone else's switches. So it's vulnerable to many of the same things that your local infrastructure is vulnerable to. And there are certain applications and certain functions that absolutely make sense in the cloud. We see a lot of big software operations move to the cloud. So things like our Infinite Campus software, we have software that operates in interventional radiology departments. All of these things operate in the cloud on very secure sites like Rackspace and AWS and Azure. So I think you need to look at what you want to put up there, because what we've seen is that people who just mindlessly say, let's put everything in the cloud, what happens is you find out how complex it is to have an all-you-can-eat environment, so that your costs can escalate very quickly as people store more and more up there, because your cost of the cloud is how much you store and how much you use. So an application that maybe you only use twice a day, if you leave that up all day, you're paying for it all day. So it requires a rethink of the processes that you might use in business to decide, do I really need that application all day? Do I really want to let my people store anything they want up there? Because the bills come in and they look like your old phone bills, right? Remember the old phone bills were 20, 30, 50 pages thick, and you had to hire an outside specialist to come in and just look at them and try to figure out who are all these people. And so these Azure bills are like that. So it really requires someone like ourselves or similar organization to help you navigate those waters.
So is there kind of I'm sure it probably varies from industry to industry, but rules of thumb in terms of what businesses should be investing in, whether it's IT in general or hardware, security systems, where should businesses be targeting, whether it's a percentage of revenue, how much should they be investing in their IT?
Oh, well, of course, as much as they could possibly afford, but that was a softball, right? But look, the reality is that you invest in infrastructure, which means you don't want 7-year-old infrastructure. Your infrastructure needs to be 3, and at 3 years, you better be thinking about and planning to replace it in year 4. You got to have someone that keeps it up to date for you, so that the latest patches and iOS installs are put in place. And then probably the best investment you can make after that is in your people, because they're the soft targets for most of these attacks. It's not attacking your firewalls directly, because if they're put in right, most of the ports are sealed and secured, and it depends upon the business, of course. Some businesses have to be more exposed than others, but most of that work is pretty much tied down. But what you're really, the soft underbelly is all of the people who are using that system from your organization, and how well their behavior is. It's kind of like their hygiene, their computer hygiene, right? Most people don't have great computer hygiene. You get lazy. It takes effort to do that, and it's sort of like wearing a mask. I don't really want to wear a mask, but I wear a mask, and so it's the same kind of deal with this. When it pops up and says you have to change your password, I don't know anyone who loves doing that. And but that's where to invest, is training your people so that you have fixed protocols in place, and and some redundancy in place for big money transfers, things like that require, two people to do it. And, we strongly suggest now, 2FA, two-factor authentication, so that not only do you have to enter in your password, but something comes on your phone or when it's a device of some sort that requires a second authentication. And that does a good job.
So I'm going to talk about you in a bit, or ask some questions about you in a bit. But one more question, just from a broader IT perspective, what are some of the trends that are going to be coming out soon, or what do people need to be looking out for that are going to be maybe some enhancements or evolutions in the world of IT?
Well, devices are getting more efficient, but more and more devices are dropping on your network. So lighting systems, heating systems, door access systems, camera systems, they're all layers that go onto your network. And usually you want to access those remotely. So that's a security issue as well as it's a productivity issue. So we're seeing a lot of new devices, and at home, it's refrigerators, toasters, anything that they possibly can put on the network goes on the network. And each one creates a bit of a security risk. You've heard stories of, the animals that kids get that can hook into the network and people can access those. And there's just a lot of crazy things that go on. So we're just seeing the network become very much kind of like plumbing in your house. And so it's sort of like, what do you run through the plumbing? What kind of shower heads do you have? Do you have whirlpools? Does it fill your pool in the back? It's just a lot of uses. And so it's a pretty exciting time. Tires in your car now come with sensors built into the tire that talk to your car, because your car has a big network, and talk to your car and tell it what temperature it is and what pressure is inside your tire. And so we're just going to see more and more things like that you won't even realize, because the devices will come with them built in. And so it's exciting, and it's all around us. And so you got to love this stuff.
You clearly love this stuff. So let's talk about you a bit. CEO, successful company, growing, in a high pace, highly technical industry. You need high skilled workers to be successful. So, talk about some of the things that, kind of keep you up at night, and are always kind of running through your head as, things you need to really stay on top of in a consistent way as a CEO of a company.
Yeah. Look, we talked about security, and that's always in the background. I think for me, our product is made by the 400 people that walk in through our door every day, and whoever shows up is how we make our product. And so I'm manic about care and feeding of those people, providing them opportunities, both on a personal level, on a financial level, on a professional level, try to reach out to their homes and, compensate their spouses for the times they might be away, either traveling or working 24 hours because of a security breach. And so I think that's probably my biggest, I don't know that I call it a worry, but always my biggest challenge, and the thing that's always on the top of my head is the people that work here. Look, I've got people who have been here 30 years, 35 years. How do you pay someone for 35 years of their life? You really don't. So that's just, to me, that's just such an awesome trust factor that I was going to provide them a runway where they can continue to grow over that time frame. That takes up a lot of my thinking. And then the rest of it is what new is coming out tomorrow, how to take care of my clients. Okay, how do I keep them safe? How do I save them money? How do I get to the solution before they do? And the third side of the coin is my business partners and suppliers. How do I take care of them? How do I partner properly with them? How do I give so that I can get, because it's a give and get world. And, so I'm always looking to invest in others and that I have relationships with, because I know that's what comes back. That's what comes back around. And so I'm constantly looking for opportunities like that to invest and care. And that leads me to kind of like, we do a lot of work with kids and with schools, and we invest a lot. We donate a lot of time and money and equipment because that gets people really early on in life. So that has a big impact on, how they experience school. And it's a big challenge right now with this distance learning. To be a teacher is a tough place to be right now.
I can imagine. And I love the fact that you're so committed to people, your own people and the people that you have relationships with, clients and vendors, and as really as a service driven company, it is about the people and it's about your relationships with those people, and I'm sure it's driven your success. So for you personally, give us a couple of Greg traits that you believe have caused you to be successful in your role as CEO of your company.
Mm. Yeah, that's, certainly a good question. We all have a tough time looking in the mirror and seeing ourselves. Um, I can tell you that I'm a lifelong learner. I read a lot, okay, and I'm constantly looking to hear, because I never assume I'm anywhere near the smartest kid in the room. So, I'm constantly trying to, cheat. I want to learn all the great ideas from someone else, because all the great ideas mostly have been thought of before. They're just used in a different way. So that's a big piece for me. And look, honesty and integrity, I think, is an important part of business. I was taught that by my dad at a very young age. But you have to kind of have a commitment to success and really believe in yourself. And we routinely, what I like to call, punch above our weight. We're kind of like the largest IT company on Long Island you never heard of before. But we routinely go into against Verizon and Presidio and IBM, and these big guys, and these big school districts and cities and clients pick us instead of them, which is like just terrific. It just shows, for me, it's not an ego thing as much as it is I know as a group we're doing the right thing, because there's no one person leads this ship. Okay, there's so many people out at the client site interfacing with the client as we speak right now, okay, that can either do the right thing or not do the right thing when they're there. They can either do the right thing when the client's looking or when they're not looking. And hopefully my spirit and passion and integrity and has imprinted enough upon them so they do the right things, and when someone really large, when we compete in really large situations and we're selected, I know that it's working. That's the acid test.
That's great stuff. So running a company for 40 years, everything's not always on the up.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are down. So talk to the group about maybe a time over the last 40 years where things were down. There was challenge, and what did you do to overcome the challenge?
Yeah, certainly any of the big financial meltdowns that we've had, and they happen every 10 years, it seems. And so, you have to kind of plan for those. And part of what I did consciously there was to make sure that there was a good amount of public works work that we did, because even if they have budget cuts, they tend to dislocate from commercial budget cuts. So commercial organizations cut budgets like rapidly, like overnight, right? But public companies, they're working on their budgets for 21, 22 now. Those are locked in, and once July comes, they have to spend that money. So that dislocation provides you some stability. Look, on March 12th, I had, I don't know, 200 people going into schools in New York City and around there up to Rhode Island to do installations and things like that. And on March 13th, they had nothing to do, So that was an aha moment for me, and so that was an exciting, a real exciting moment. And we pivoted though, and we found some work to do through our partner NTT, where you heard about the 300,000 iPads that were distributed into New York City schools. Well, 200,000 of those came through here, and they came in on pallets, and we shipped one in at a time. And that was in collaboration with IBM and Apple. So we were part of the chain there. We were the kind of the last leg before they went to a student. So it was exciting things like that, all of a sudden we have engineers packing up iPads, but I had people in the hallway thanking me for the fact that we saved their jobs, and that was a tremendous thing, because usually in an industry like ours, it's kind of like, they've always got one look. They're always looking, right? And they're always being accosted by people that want to hire them. Another key time came in, like, I guess it was 2000. Apple had a sales agent program for state and local government and higher education in K-12 schools. We were doing about $250 million a year. And back in 2000, $250 million still had some worth, it was a significant amount of money. And Steve Jobs came back at that time. And within a couple of months, he just terminated the program. And so this is a good day, bad day story, though. So the bad day was all of a sudden $250,000 worth of revenue that was coming through our business. We had probably 120 people working on that at the time. We were a lot smaller. And so that went away. But what he did for me was, because he cut it so quickly, is that we were able to pivot and work with IBM and Dell and HP and provide the same services to them. And the business took off from that point, and we actually did a lot better, So you just have to be able to be nimble. And that's one of the benefits of being a small business, is you got to be nimble, you got to pay attention. You really can't take very long vacations anywhere, because as soon as you go away, and this, as soon as you go away, all the excitement starts to happen, and the things you can't imagine start to unravel. And but that's that's a price you pay. Everybody wants to be their own boss. Well, there's good days and bad days to that.
Sounds like you did a great job of turning some of those challenging times into opportunities. And you made reference earlier when you were talking about your diversification of the industries that you serve. And if commercial, private business was cutting budget, you still had an opportunity to lean on, some public budgets, which, they're stable. And once they're set, and you're going to have some work. And I completely agree. I think business diversity is huge and can really, help you kind of weather some of the challenging times. As part of that, so, when you have these challenging situations come up and you're looking to see how to best deal with them and maybe, turn them into opportunity, is there a core team you collaborate with? Are these things that, just come out of your head? How does that, kind of collaboration from a senior leadership perspective work in your company?
Gosh, it takes a village. Certainly around me, I've surrounded myself with what I feel are the best in the industry. So I talk with them, and we discuss these things on an ongoing basis. We have monthly meetings, we have weekly meetings, one-on-ones in groups, and we talk about the tough situations that each different division is involved in. But also there's a number of industries, a number of peer industries that I belong to. Maybe I mentioned before a young president's organization. A fellow by the name of Nick Racanelli Jr. got me into that. He's since passed away, unfortunately, but he was one of my best friends, and probably did one of the most spectacular things for me, getting me into YPO. And because that opened great doors for me of learning. And so that was terrific. We belong to an organization called Service Leadership that was just purchased by ConnectWise. And but a group of talented individuals who do benchmarking for companies like ourselves and hold meetings during the year so we can share best practices and benchmarking numbers. I have a board of advisors that I have no business having. They are some of the CEOs of some of the biggest venture capital firms and public fintech firms that you could ever imagine. And I've had them, they've been coming here for, I don't know, 20 years or so. They've been working with me, which is amazing. 3 times a year, they come out of their schedule for practically nothing. All I just do, I feed them well, and I cover their travel, and they come and they give me their wisdom, and they tell me the things that other people don't want to tell me. So it's very hard to get really honest feedback when you're the boss, because everyone's a little bit trepidation, right? And so it really is getting information from all around you, okay? And then of course reading. There's a lot of great literary works out there, and with the internet, there's even more, but you have to sift through that. It didn't go through a barrier to entry like books do. So it's you have to pick your source carefully. But there's a lot of great information there, and that's very present of what's going on and what might be working and what's not working. And you're really looking for early warning signs, right? You're looking for things that there's a guy down the street was a YPO or RK Packaging. He made the boxes for Chanel. He made all high-end boxes and stuff. And when he wasn't making boxes, I knew there was a recession coming. Okay, because if you don't have the boxes, you're not shipping stuff. And Chanel was a lot sharper than I am at predicting recession. So if they weren't ordering boxes, I knew I had to button down a little bit. Now is not the time to press my bets, and expand the business. And
so being nimble, you said that before, being willing to change and adapt. It sounds like you've done a great job in your willingness. Sometimes leaders might not be open-minded enough in order to take in the perspective of others, or read and research, and none of us has all the answers. And I think as a leader, we need to understand we don't have all the answers. And you've done a great job with that. So what does the next few years look like for your business? Do you see new things coming? Do you see more growth, more opportunity in your business? What does your business look like in the next few years?
Well, security is a big piece that we're ramping up and developing new security products that are appropriate in size and complexity for our different customer segments. And then on top of that, we feel that there's a great place for us to help with whether it's work at home, work on travel, school at home, all of these transitions going back between working at a central place, going to school at a central place. So we stood up a number of help desk opportunities. And the latest one was a distance learning help desk for the schools last fall that went remote. And so we provided a lamination layer in front of the help desk that the school already had. And we siphoned off questions about Google, passwords, calendars. How do I do this? I can't get my computer to do that. A lot of the calls were from parents, and it left the school's administrative staff or the business's administrative staff to do more important higher level work because there was a great number of calls coming in that we could field for them. So we kind of held off the crowds a bit, and it got to the point, I don't remember there were several thousand calls a day. We had one customer get hacked during that time frame, so their calls were off the charts. And so we think there's a place for us to play in trying to keep the distance operators, people who are working not at a central spot or who transition back and forth, kind of keep their sanity, okay, and help them, because you know how frustrating it can be when you enter your password, it's your password, but it doesn't work, okay? it's happened to everyone. And, you really want to take that computer and just throw it out the window or hit it with a hammer. My wife is really good at that. She has no patience for when it doesn't do what she expects it to do. And so to have someone who can answer the phone in a few moments, 24/7, okay, and guide you through that and get you to do whatever work you're trying to do, because it always happens when you're trying to get on an HIA Zoom call, right? And people are waiting for you. It always happens at times like that. And so that's where we see kind of our future is. And then certainly the third piece is to help people navigate this cloud, as you talk about, distributed cloud access and what things belong up there, what things belong locally, and how do you manage that as an organization? Because there is a certain amount of management you need to do in order to be able to hybridize your computing environment. Takes a bit of work, takes a bit of experience, and you don't want to learn all of those things by yourself.
Well, it sounds like your wife and my wife are cut from the same cloth. and I can appreciate you finding the right place in identifying where those pain points are going to be for people that are working remotely or have a hybrid, in the office versus working from home, because that's going to be, I think, for a lot of industries, business as usual moving forward. So we have a couple of questions, and I'll just remind everybody on the call, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A. So first question is, with your staff, your workforce, really distributed in a big way, how do you go about communicating with them? What's happening with the company, issues, topics, staying connected? What does that kind of big picture look like and how you communicate with your employees?
We find that not every solution works for every individual. And so we have a number of solutions. We have an HR website that we pump new opportunities out to, changes in 401k, changes to our medical, improvements to employee benefits, COVID benefits that are available for people who have traveled and can't get to work right away, things like that. So we do that. Each organization has a pretty tailored group of tools that they use to reach their clients, to reach their employees rather. And because some of our employees work full-time at a client, so they'll go to Philip Morris or Town of Nassau or Springfield School District or any number of places every day. And so that requires a certain tactic to communicate with them and keep them connected and what's going on at the organization. And most recently, over the last couple of years, I've started recording personal videos and then broadcasting those wholesale to the staff. I may have a couple of versions for, one for the people who are full-time on site and others for those that come into the office periodically, because there's subtle different messages and information that some people need, other people don't need. And so the trick is to do a number of things, and you'll get traction someplace. Again, not everyone reads emails, not everyone will watch videos, and not everyone will read what you send them. But if you add value, then people want more. Okay, so the trick is, if it's going to be a dry speech and they're not going to learn anything, it better be a short one. Because I think the rule is 60 to 120 seconds is about what people last. So it's got to be something along those lines. And then we have some some core training modules that we put people through also, that also brings together disparate groups inside the organization. So they chat inside those groups and, share information. Always a challenge though.
Yeah, no, and great stuff. And good to hear you not only understanding how important it is, but coming up with some nice, unique ways of making sure that, you stay connected with your employees. So because you spoke about, being well-read a couple of times, we have a question. Make some recommendations to the group, Greg. What reads do you like?
Oh boy, First Break All the Rules is a book that I bought 50 copies of, and I give to all of my management here. It's stuff that there's nothing you read in there that goes, Jesus, I never knew that. Okay, but there's like 10 precepts in there, and as you read them, you go, oh, I haven't done that recently. Oh, I haven't done that recently. There's a great book called Customer Success. That's also a great book to talk about how to make your customers successful. Okay, because it's all about customer success. It's all about the outcome. So you really need to understand what success is to your clients. And that means different things, because if it's a bank, it could be the bank, it could also be the bank's clients, right? If it's a school, it's not just the administrative staff, it's the teaching staff and the students and the parents. So you really have to think about this stuff, and not any one person gets it, so you gotta, what I do mostly is sit around with people and debate these kind of things, and they hate me for it, but I'll often jump on both sides of a debate. I'll debate for something, and then I'll debate against something, just to tease out a thought out of them that will change my way of thinking, because it's, again, not the smartest kid in the room, so we're trying to pull out new ideas, and we're on the forefront.
Well, you've clearly done some stuff right, Greg. So
That's the trick. Do some
Yeah.
stuff right.
no, but thanks for the time. You did a great job, and looking forward to you and I connecting some more at some board meetings coming up. But I'm going to turn it back over to Anthony.
Thanks so much, Rich.
Thank you, Rich. Great job. Wonderful CEO forum again. Really amazing listening to Greg and how he keeps his company in the forefront, and how he keeps his employees engaged, and how he really takes care of his customers. So it was really wonderful, Greg, to hear all that.
Thank you.
So last thing, I want to thank everyone that came in today and listened to Greg and had the privilege to hear all his experience. And I want to just let everyone know some upcoming events we have. April 23rd, we have our Long Island Innovation Park at Hop Dog update. So you can learn all about the current and future growth of the second largest industrial park in the United States. April 28th, we have new and prospective member information meeting. And we also have some trivia networking on April 23rd. The last thing I will mention that you'll be getting some information on April 30th, Custom Computer Specialist is going to do 3 industry series on technology. So you'll get information on that. That will be on April 30th, and we'll probably get some information out to you next week on that. So once again, I want to thank everyone for coming, and great job, everyone.
Take care.
All right, take it easy.
Thank you.